Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good day and welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this Thursday, the 11th of January, 2024. Thank you for tuning in. Now, I got a good show for you guys today. The first thing I want to talk about is what's the Fed up to? And what are they doing? What's coming next for the Fed? I'm going to tell you, I think this is my idea what the Fed's doing. Of course, you never know for sure what they're doing. You can't know for sure, but I have a good idea. It's mergers and acquisitions. You say, what is that? What are they merging? What are they acquiring? Banks. What they've been doing quite recently, when banks fail, is they merge them with other banks and they acquire them. What does this do? It reduces the number of banks down to a select few that the Fed has under their control. This is very important for what the Fed considers to be a win. You know, I'm going to tell you guys what, the Fed actually likes inflation. This whole thing about fighting inflation is a ruse, I think. I think they actually, in the end, they want inflation. This is what they want. And so what we're looking at is these mergers and acquisitions. It reduces the banking system down and consolidates power. It's a consolidation of power. So what they're doing is right now they're playing a very, very dangerous game. And I'm going to explain to you why it's dangerous. In order to obtain these mergers and acquisitions, they have to drive the economy into a position where the banks cannot function properly. Then the banks go under. And then they're able to be merged and acquired and condensed. It's something like boiling something on the stove. Say you're boiling milk on the stove and you want to condense the milk down. You know? If you go too far, you'll burn it. And you'll ruin everything. This is the way with this. They're watching the economy very carefully, but they're greedy. They want to get a few more mergers, a few more acquisitions, without destroying the economy, but they're taking it right to the brink. Trying to keep an eye on it, thinking, okay, we got control over this. We can create this situation where we can obtain this acquisition of power through this condensation or condensing the power into a small pinnacle. This is what they want. They want picture in your mind a pyramid. They're the top of the pyramid, and they want everything down underneath them under their control completely. And these institutions, smaller institutions and stuff like that, they want to condense it all down into several big banks that are under direct control by the Fed. This is what I think they're up to. This is my position on it. So they're going to push this thing. As long as they can see that the economy is not completely failing on them and they think they can get away with a bit more and they can get a few more of these mergers and acquisitions in place, they're going to keep pushing. They're going to keep interest rates up because high interest rates is their way of pulling the money back in from the system, withdrawing the liquidity. And this is what triggers these mergers and acquisitions. But why I say it's a dangerous game is right here. The general economy. It says Americans are sinking in debt as households' expenses grow faster than income. New poll says the economy is good on paper, but I'm not doing great. You're not doing great. Everybody out there is not doing great right now. Nobody's doing good because the money is drying up. You hear a loud sucking noise? That's the Fed. Now these banks out there, they're getting into difficulties. What do the banks do when they get into difficulties? They withdraw lending. They suck it in. They say, okay, no, sorry, you can't have this loan. Or, sorry, and what about all these credit cards? Did you know the people out there right now are carrying over $1 trillion in credit card debt? With an annualized APR, interest rate on those credit cards is over 20%. Somewhere probably north of 20%. Maybe as closer to 30%, getting up close to it anyway, with these high interest rates. Now, people are going to be getting in trouble because this is accruing interest. And they can't pay it off. They haven't got the money to pay off the debt, the outstanding balance. So what happens is a lot of them are just paying the minimum balance. But the minimum balance is going higher and higher. So what are these people going to do? Are they going to go out and make any major purchases or anything? No. You know what they're going to do? They're going to do what I call hauling their horns in. In other words, they're only going to purchase things that are absolute essentials. This is the consumer in the United States. They're going to purchase only essentials. Food, medicine, things like that. Okay? That's hauling their horns in. So what does that do to the consumer as this progresses? So we got to look ahead a few months. What does it do to the consumer? Well, they stop spending. They can't get loans. They can't get more credit. Credit starts to dry up. More and more consumers are too deep in debt, and they're not going to get more extension of credit from the banks because the banks are getting in trouble. And if the banks don't lend money, the banks get in trouble. This is a spiral, a self-perpetuating spiral of because the people that were working for companies and stuff that were selling things to these consumers, different companies and stuff, well, now they've lost their stream of revenue. So now they're in trouble with the bank. They become non-performing loans. They have to fire people and send people home or lay people off. What happens then is those people then don't have any money. And then other businesses that rely upon them, they start to go bankrupt and lay people off. And this spirals out of control very quickly. And that's why I say that the Fed is working with something that's very dangerous here. They're playing with fire. This fire could get out of control. Let me tell you what it's like, you know. Say a wife comes home, you know, and she says to her husband, you know, down in the kitchen, I'm tired of those old kitchen doors on the cabinets. They're awful. Can't stand them. And she said, I've been into a cabinet shop, and they're going to replace all the cabinet doors, and it's only going to cost $15,000. And the husband, his mouth drops. She says, yeah, there's these new cabinet doors, and they got like, it's a newest thing. It's really pretty. They burn them. They burn the cabinet doors, and they put stain on them, and it's natural wood finish, but it's got like this burnt relief. These are the new doors they're going to be bringing us, you know. And it's really, really great. I love them. I absolutely love this burnt look on the cabinet doors. So he says, well, I can't afford $15,000, honey. It's too much money for these cabinet doors. She says, I'm going to buy them anyway because I really want to replace those doors in the kitchen. So the next day, his wife goes off to work, and he's got a day off work. Well, he's at home. And he says to his son, Johnny, he says, listen, Johnny, I got an idea. We're going to give my wife her burnt cabinet kitchen doors, you know. He says, I bought a gallon of stain of clear coat, he said. He said, and what we're going to do is we're going to take all the dishes out right now, and we're going to put some of this fire retardant tape around the cabinets, right? And what we got a fire extinguisher here. And what we're going to do is we're going to give her burnt kitchen cabinets, you know. So sure enough, he gets this lighter fluid, he squirts it on the doors and stuff, you know. And he says, now we're going to control this fire, and as soon as they start to get brown and toasty, we're going to put the fire out. Right? So that's what they do. They light the cabinet doors on fire. He says, Johnny, put the fire out now. Johnny starts squirting. And sure enough, he puts the fire out. And he says, that's perfect. Now we can sand them and put the stain on them. By the time my wife gets home, this is going to be wonderful, right? But what he doesn't realize is when that fire was burning, it made its way up into the attic. And now his rafters are on fire. So long and short of the story, he burns the house down. He thought he had it, but when he got it done, but there's a smoldering up in the rafters. Crazy idea. He shouldn't have done it. But this is what the Fed's doing. And I went through a long illustration to show you what the Fed's doing right now and why it's dangerous is because they could get a fire going accidentally. It's this fire. They've got a controlled burn right now going in the economy. And they feel very satisfied that they have a controlled burn and everything looks good and we're going to have these cabinet doors finished up real nice. Right? But no. They're going to get the rafters burning if they're not careful. And that's why I give that illustration yesterday about skidding across the runway and burning with their soft landing. And so this is very dangerous what they're trying to do, because this can spiral out of control. As people lose their jobs, they don't have money to buy anything any longer. And that should be a no-brainer. And then other people lose their jobs because they lost their jobs. And then more people lose their jobs because they lost. This is how the Great Depression gets going. Or the Greatest Depression, greater than the Great Depression. And we're right on the edge of all this. Because now things are actually starting to spiral downwards to the consumer. And it's not looking good what could happen. It could happen really, really fast. So maybe they'll get their mergers and acquisitions. Maybe all the banks, or a good big chunk of them, might start to go down around March or April. It might spiral out of control too big that the Fed, and then what's the Fed going to do? They're going to pee themselves. That's what they're going to do. But no, they got a printing press, and they can fix it, but at the expense of the dollar. So maybe it won't be quite as bad as I'm talking about. Maybe I'm exaggerating it just a little bit. But underneath that, the end result is they're going to have to support the dollar. And they want to support the dollar. They really want inflation. That's what they really want. And that's what they're going to get. But I think it's going to be a little bit hotter than they ever expected. So what do in the end when all that happens and the buck comes back to them? Is they split and they go off into retirement and take their fortunes with them. Anyway, it's just the whole system is just totally corrupt. Now, let's get into something else real quick here. I got a solution here for this homeless problem in Canada. It's too cold. The people are living in tents in around these cities and stuff. But on the other side of this coin, that's their home. Now, the government, their solution is to come along with a big garbage truck, grab their tents and all their belongings, throw them in the back of the garbage truck, crush it, and take it to the landfill. Because they don't want the people to freeze. And of course, what that does is it puts them right out on the street again, right in the cold, with no belongings. And then when this cold ends in a few weeks from now, what'll happen is they'll need all new tents, they'll need all new everything, and the government will probably go out and buy them all new everything or whatever, because they can't have them. There's just too many. And this is a growing problem. It's growing fast. It's getting bigger and bigger. And why it's getting bigger and bigger is because of these stupid monetary policies people like the Fed are doing right now. Because they don't care about the people. They don't care about the collateral damage caused to the general economy. They just care about, they want that power, that they want to create that pyramid of theirs, that consolidated power structure in the banking system. But I got a solution to this, guys. And it would cost the city a lot less. You know what? Here's the thing. All the cities in Canada here could do it. During the summertime, they're always cutting trees and stuff. Right? And sometimes they mulch the trees in the mulch. They take and grind the wood all up in the mulch and stuff and take it to the landfill. Or sometimes they just dump it in the landfill just the way it is. Well, you know what happens? They push all that earth over it and everything, and it goes down in there and rots, and it makes gases. Primary gases, like one of the gases it creates is methane. But these are greenhouse gases. These are gases They're always complaining, moaning and complaining about how the earth is getting too much greenhouse gases, and that's what they're creating by burying all of this stuff in the landfill, including their tents and everything else. It rots and creates immense amounts of greenhouse gases. Well, my solution would cut down on that, because the truth is, if you burn that wood, it releases gases, but not as much as if it slowly rots in the ground. It releases a lot more gas. Burning it, incinerating it, like in a stove, it's less gas. So, and then they got all this wood they get for free when they do tree trimming, and every city does it. They trim trees, trim branches and stuff. Power departments have to do it to keep the lines from cleared. The tree grows too big and it gets in the way of the lines, and they have to cut it and stuff, and the city has to remove it. So they got all this wood. Well, my solution's simple. Just take that wood, cut it up, and make a big heap of it near the homeless shelter and cover it with some tarps so it'll dry out all summer. Right? And then buy the people in the camps, buy them each one of these camp stoves for their tents. This is made specifically for tents. Camping tent stove. And I've seen these on videos on YouTube all the time, where people are getting a hot tent videos, minus 30 degree night, and they go out just for fun in their tents, and they spend the night at minus 30 with one of these little wood stoves in their tent, and they're toasty warm all night. They don't have a problem. It's vented to the outside through a pipe, so there's no carbon monoxide. And, there's no carbon monoxide with wood burning anyway, because if the carbon monoxide levels get too high, well, your eyes are going to be watering, and it's going to be burning your nose, and you're going to know it. With a wood stove, the carbon monoxide that comes off of a wood stove. So they're safe, and tents nowadays are non-flammable, and that's why they sell these, because tents and they're cheap. They're only like $100 US a piece. So for $10,000, which is nothing for cities to pay $10,000, they pay $10,000 for one trash can or something like that, something silly. They could buy 100 of these things for the homeless encampments for just 10 grand. And the problem solved. So there's a solving for the problem with that. What was this article here? Oh. This guy created a puppet, and I think he created it he said that he created it looked like himself, But then the activists got on there, and they said, oh, you're making fun, or whatever. So he's suing them. He's filed a lawsuit against the anti-racism activists who said that he was making racism against black people. Like they were accusing him of that. He's a theater performer. He's filed a defamation suit after his puppet was called racist. And it looks like he made that puppet out of paper mache or something like that, It was kind of a cute puppet. He should, I don't, well, what's going on with all this? People are way too sensitive nowadays. This is the whole problem, is people are so sensitive about every little thing. Of course, maybe they want us to be so overly sensitive about stuff. That way we create strife and division amongst ourselves. That's an old strategy. It's called a Machiavellian strategy, where you pit people against one another in order to keep them under control. Polish police. Now, here in Poland right now, the Polish police are arresting this pro-Duda MPs inside the presidential palace. They have a constitutional crisis unfolding in Poland right now. And just like in other countries, sometimes they're very complicated. The ins and outs of these constitutional crises are extremely complicated, hard to understand. I had to read this over about 2 or 3 times to try to get to understand it. But evidently these guys here are the guys that they're after, and these guys here are going to go on hunger strikes or something. 2 2 men being jailed. It says they're decrying that they're going to become a dictatorship in Poland, and that they're going to lose democracy and all this stuff. Does that sound kind of familiar? But they got a constitutional crisis unfolding. Does that sound kind of familiar? It's ringing a bell someplace in my head, you know? Now, this is a big story. This is big. You know, they were stopping these ships from moving in and out of the Red Sea with freight. These freight ships. The Houthis. But this is in the Gulf of Oman. Let me just show you guys where the Gulf of Oman is. It's right here, near the Persian Gulf. It's this little body of water right in here, near the mouth of the Persian Gulf. This is where all the oil comes through. I think it's 20% of the world's oil comes right through this little strait of Hormuz right here into the Gulf of Oman. Now, it's one thing to mess with shipping in the Red Sea. You can cut off a lot of freight that way. And the world will survive. But you cut off the world's oil supply. And everybody is up the creek without a paddle at that point. And that's why this is big. So let's read the article again now that you guys know what's going on. Because this is moved. This is not in the Red Sea. This is in the Gulf of Oman. An oil tanker was boarded by masked men in military uniforms. In other words, they were hijacking or commandeering the vessel. A vessel bound for Turkey from Iraq. It says at the center of a crisis between Iran and the United States. It says armed men wearing military uniforms and black masks near Oman, according to a British maritime security firm in the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations. The latest in a spate of shipping incidents in the region. 4 or 5 men boarded the Marshall Islands flagged St. Nicholas at about 7:30 a.m. on Thursday, 50 nautical miles east of the Gulf of Oman, and then headed toward, so they took the ship and headed toward Bandar-e-Jask in Iran. This could set everything off. Because it's touching the most holy of holies, the oil. It's touching the inner sanctum of the world's financial system. This could just ignite everything. And most people are probably missing this story. They probably went right over it. But this is big. An oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman boarded. This is big. Big, big, big. Okay, guys. We're going to move on and take a look at the markets today. $22.90 for silver. You know, silver's been in this holding pattern. It is just as bad as when you're on a flight someplace and your airplane's coming into land and your legs are tired, your back is tired. It's been a long flight. Say you've been in the air 8 hours already, right? And the pilot comes on the thing and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid they've put us into a holding pattern. We're going to have to circle the city. We're going to have to circle Los Angeles or wherever." And you're going around and around and around and around for hours, and you're just like, and they won't even let you take your seatbelt off any longer. This is like that with precious metals, with silver and gold. They're going around and around and around. Silver goes down to $21, and then it goes back up to $24, and then it goes back down to $21, and then it goes back up to 20. And every time it goes up to like 24, you start thinking, "Oh, this is it, this is it, this is it." But then the suppressors come back on. These bullion banks. And she goes back down to whatever. Oh, it looked like it's really dropping. It was up near $23 this morning. Now it's $22.56. This sucks. And I can see why some people just give up and they just take their silver and dump it on the desk and say, "I'm done with this, never buying it, stuff again." You know, and they put us through this. But, you know, stuff like that happens like that. If it was easy to make big returns on your investments, everybody would be there. What's going to happen is this stuff's going to wait until just everybody is sick of it, never wants to see it again, sold it, and then it's going to go moonshot like you never seen in your life. And then you're going to be kicking yourself. Why, oh why, oh why? Cryptocurrency right now. We're looking at Bitcoin at 46,900, so Bitcoin is up. Ethereum 2611. So Ethereum is up. XRP 61.1 cents. So XRP is up. So crypto's doing rather well right now. Now let's take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's down 258 points on the day at 37,437. I'm going to tell you guys what. When the Fed finally does turn, maybe after they get when they get a little, either one of two things will make them turn. Maybe if they get a few more acquisitions, or if the economy starts to turn downhill too rapidly for them and it starts to scare them, then after they change directions, and I know they're going to ultimately, then we could see a hyperinflating stock market just along with if the dollar starts to hyperinflate, I think the stock market will too. And if you get a hyperinflating stock market, the sky's the limit. It doesn't really mean the stock market's going up. But I'm going to tell you guys what, if we do get a hyperinflating stock market, we're going to have gold and silver going to the moon during that period in time. Let's take a look at crude oil, 73.13. It's up $1.76 today. That's a big move for crude today as well. Man, does it have anything to do with that ship that they hijacked in the Gulf of Oman, I wonder? Probably not. Okay, U.S. 10 years at 4.03. It's up a half a basis point, up 0.6 basis points. And the U.S. 30 years at 4.22, and it's up 2.5 basis points today. And taking a look at the U.S. dollar index, 102.63. And the dollar's been rising today somewhat. Choppy. It's kind of choppy, but it's been rising. Okay, if you guys haven't pushed the like button, push it now, the thumbs up. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode. You guys have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.